station. Let's do it.
Badass. We're going to get the button pushing and we're going to get started here right away. And of course, people are going to watch the preamble while I'm doing that sort of stuff. Anyway, we are here. We are doing it. I'm going to do a little bit of button pushing. And this is a Syndicate Talks Season 4. I think I'm on the right one. Give me a second. Yep, there we go. Hey, YouTube was giving me the gears this morning, so I got to make sure I'm looking at the right place, right time, all that other good stuff. So I'm going to do some button pushing. Bear with us here for a moment to get that going, and we're going to do the formal introduction. I got you a little bit, the micro version of it. We'll get into the proper one here in 1 second. Of course, and it's Syndicate Talks. I get a little bit of preamble while we're going through this right now. But Syndicate Talks is all about you. It's all about the business owner, and it's all about the members that we've got and how they're able to help sustain, fulfill, grow businesses, share what they do really, really well, and of course, make you a little better at your job. So here we're just about done that part. We're just about done this part. There we go. Love it. Pick the right playlist. That one's good. That's good to go. Check the button. Said this is not for kids, just in case the odd bad word slips out. You never know.
We don't do that here.
It does happen from time to time. I do it a lot here because that's part of my fun and entertainment, right? But hey, we're here. We're going to watch for the live studio audience, but I'm going to introduce everybody here in a moment. My name is Mitch Kamich. I am the host, the talking figurehead, the speaker, the glowing box guru for Syndicate, our lovely little tribe collection of business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, innovators. And we are in Syndicate Talks Season 4, Episode 2 with my man, Jason Courtepatte, Legacy Renewables. And he's going to be talking renewable energy. We actually just heard from his partner, Scott, on EcoLeaf's side. We're going to talk about solar in particular and what renewable energy is turning into and how it's going to have a big impact on your life, because we are going to a new energy revolution, and it's not stuff that comes out of the ground, it's stuff that comes out of the sky. But here at Syndicate Talks, we started at the beginning of the pandemic, global pandemic, with one simple purpose. How do we showcase our members? But more importantly, how do we provide free business education to our members and to the world at large? So we found people that were really good at what they did, that were passionate about it amongst our community, gave them a format like Syndicate Talks, let them talk about the things that they know how to do incredibly well, and shared that free of charge with the entire world to make you smarter and better at business. So today, of course, is my brother, Jason Courtepatte with Legacy. Jay, say hi. Take the next 30 seconds, minute, 2 minutes, how much time you want to fill them in, and just talk a little bit about who you are, how you got to where you're at right now. I'm going to finish some button pushing, and then we'll get into the meat of this. Let's do it, brother.
Awesome. Thanks, Mitch. Hey, everybody. So name is Jason Courtepatte. I'm a certified master electrician, professional electrical contractor with my PEC designation, and a CSA certified solar designer and installer. I've been running my own electrical contracting company, Electric, for the last about 3 years now, and have been specializing exclusively in solar for the last 5. Tomorrow, I'd like to point out, is my 10-year anniversary as an electrician. So that's pretty cool. In that time, I've seen ups, I've seen downs, I've seen sideways, I've seen all sorts of weird stuff. And it's led me to the point now where I've partnered up with Mitch and Scott to develop Legacy Renewables, which is where it's going to allow me to take things a step further than I ever could with Kite Electric, and further my goals of providing a renewable energy future to onwards to our downwards as far as 7 generations away, right, is where we want to be providing these opportunities for self-generation, self-sustainability, and an ability for people to generate their own power, distributed energy across the province, across the country, across the world, right? Being able to maintain that amongst ourselves and share it with the communities that it's intended to be shared with. So that's kind of what Legacy Renewables means to me. That's where that's kind of the direction I want to be going with that. And we've got some really, really cool stuff in the works, and I couldn't be prouder to have the opportunity to chat about this. So thanks, Mitch, for the invite.
Absolutely. And once again, we got gremlins going on YouTube today. My goodness, there's all sorts of weird stuff going on right now. It's bizarre to watch. whatever. We'll just shut that other glowing box, but we are still here on this glowing box. So with Jason and with Legacy, obviously it's power that falls out of the sky. It is power that can come from the ground too. And I said, well, Mitch, you said we're not going to go from the ground anymore. Well, yeah, there's some stuff there that can work for us as well. I don't just mean oil and gas. I mean, there's other places that I think that can happen. So talk about what we got right now, because solar is not new. Solar is not, as innovative as some people might think. It's been around for a long time, but solar certainly had its technological needs or advances coming through. So fill people in on that, because solar should make sense, should have a purpose, and more importantly, should be able to satisfy what other people want or need. But yet most people don't realize that it could be cost effective, could be very useful, could do what it is. Lots of misconceptions. So why don't you talk about what it is that Legacy actually does, what it is that you do, and what that benefit is to people?
Sure. So yeah, man, myths and misconceptions, you hit the nail on the head. We could talk for an hour about that alone, but what we're trying to do here at Legacy is we're providing project management, we're providing material procurement, we're providing contract administration, we're providing all that high-end, effectively, we'll call it the office work, the admin work for solar installations, while partnering with certified installers. We're partnering with marketing teams like EcoLeaf, and we're being able to grow, develop, and multiply that in various locations. And so my role in this as operations director is I'm overseeing the deployment of the certified contractor program, any onboarding and training platforms that are solar specific, of course, as well as deployment for these installs to our certified partners, right? The idea, and I love that you mentioned that, coming from the ground, the first thing I thought was, well, there's, refracted solar irradiance off of grass and solid surfaces, but that's where my mind went. It's great to be able to provide an education, and that's kind of the I want to say ulterior motive to Legacy Renewables and EcoLeaf and even Kite Electric, is to provide that education, why solar isn't so expensive as people think, why it is actually a good investment, and why it's something that everybody needs to be considering regardless of the financial position that you're in. Everybody's seen energy bills going off the charts, right? I'm scared to open mine up simply because I've seen the rates going over on the floating rate, and it's going up to 16 cents a kilowatt hour. I don't think it's going to be long before we're breaking 25 cents a kilowatt hour. And that's not changing the amount of energy I'm using. It's just the energy is getting more expensive, right? And we're going to see more and more of this as we go on, and not just because energy is scarce or it's harder to generate or whatever the case, but ironically, we're kind of doing this to ourselves in the renewable industry, simply because until we hit a breaking point where we can sustain an entire network with renewable energy and storage and whatever's needed in that period of time, we're still going to have these gas plants or these other traditional generation sources. They need to be on standby. Traditionally, solar doesn't work very well at night, last time I checked. And so those gas generators can't just be turned on in the evening and turned off in the morning. They have to sit idle. So now we're paying for two sources of generation. That is going to increase energy costs until we get to a breaking point where those systems can be shut down permanently, right? So in that time, you're not changing how much energy you're using in your house. It's just getting more expensive. So what's happening is, if you can offset that energy in your house, in the meantime, your return on investment, or your ROI, or how much money you're saving over time, is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And eventually you're going to be saving so much that it's going to make sense. It's not going to make sense not to get solar on your house, right? So that's kind of where we're headed. And especially with the energy industry the way that it is, having this decentralized distributed method of production is going to help with stability in your home and stability of energy generation, right?
All right. So what is Legacy's main product? If it only was going to do one thing, what's the one thing it does? I mean, you talked about it constantly, you keep using the words, but there was an awful lot of stuff there there's good meat to sift through there. There's lots of juicy bits to go into. What does Legacy do?
What does Legacy do? Primary focus, big number one, the big, huge quality or quantity thing that we're doing is residential solar. That is the meat and potatoes of it. simply because there are roughly 1.5 million rooftops across Alberta alone that can sustain a solar energy installation. And frankly, if we even had, it's something along the lines of 10 different or 100 different companies with 10 crews each, that's still 50, 60 years worth of work. So there's lots of availability out there. It's the lowest barrier to entry. Homeowners and property owners have huge access to capital and funding resources. So there's lots of availability for cash flow to get these installations put together. And there are rebates galore for these residential installations, both federal rebates, there's municipal rebates. There's at least 2 or 3 different financing options for residential installations. And the exciting part that we're happy to bring to the table is the opportunity for hybrid installations, where it's not just a grid connected solar install. Now we're talking battery storage, we're talking hybrid, we're talking where you can be able to self-sustain your property in the city or not to whatever degree you want. You want full home backup? Not a problem. You want emergency load panel backup? Not a problem. That's the kind of stuff we're able to bring to the table. As I'd say, you know, the larger percentage of the work that we're looking at is that residential sector, right? Commercial, industrial, sure, we can do those things. We want to do those things. We're excited to do those things. Residential, though, that's the meat and potatoes for sure.
Okay, fantastic. So right then, we talked about myths and conceptions for a moment. What houses can't get solar?
Houses that can't get solar, great question. Frankly, none. If I really had to put the answer out there, it would have to be such an irregularly designed house. It would have to be covered by trees. It would have to be in the middle of a valley somewhere. And even then, funny story, you put one module up on that house, despite the fact that you're probably losing 70% to shading, that's still 30% more solar than you're getting right now. Is it a wise investment? If you're looking at the financial piece, maybe not. But if you're looking at it from an ecological piece, an investment piece, a self-generation piece, that's where you start garnering that additional generation on your own property. With, at that point, who cares about the losses, right? So is there a house that can't have solar installed on it? I would like to confidently say no, there isn't. Is it going to cost a little more for racking and additional design and so on? Probably, but that's where our awesome design team here at Legacy is happy to work with that and create something that's custom tailored to gain the maximum production possible.
Okay. What's the biggest somebody can go to? Like, I mean, we got older homes, we've got newer homes, we've got old light bulbs, we've got new light bulbs. We got people that are crazy about Christmas and put up lots of light bulbs in their yard. What does it take before we say no mas, before we tap out, or is that even a thing anymore? Because solar once upon a time used to have very much a cap. There was only so far you could go, and depending on the kind of house and what you're doing, is that cap even a reality anymore? Is that more myth? Is that more legend now than anything else? So what's again, I keep asking you the places we can't go, because a lot of people are like, I don't know if we can do this, or I don't know if it's cost effective, or I don't know if I should do it, or I don't know how long it's going to take, or I don't know if I'm going to generate enough power, or I don't know that, well, crap, it gets dark at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Alberta in December. Is that going to be enough? So there we go. There's the tidbits for us to dispel the myths and rumors. Buddy, drill it. What you got?
Awesome. So typically when people ask, you know, what are the limiting factors in solar, there's kind of 3 main categories that will limit the design, that will limit the size of your solar installation. One is your roof space available, right? If you've got a roof with all sorts of hips and valleys and all sorts of stuff going on, and you can't quite squeeze a module in anywhere, that's really going to limit what's available. Now, there are solutions to that. We were talking about different racking systems for the impossible roof. We can tilt and move and change. That involves some work with a structural engineer. So the available roof space is number one. Second piece is your budget, right? We can put on as much solar as you want, depending on how much you're going to want to invest in your system, right? The more you invest in the system, the more energy it's going to offset on an annual basis. So whether you want only 50% of your bill offset, 80%, or a full 100% offset of your energy bill is going to depend on that budget of that size of system. Finally, the third main factor is how much energy did you use last year? And the reason why that's important is the Alberta Microgeneration Regulation does strictly stipulate how much energy you're allowed to put back into the grid, and that's based on your past 12 months of energy usage, right? Now, that, of course, is the Alberta microgen regulation. Each province and each territory have their own ways of approaching this, but they're generally similar in the sense that you can't be producing a ton of extra energy and sending it out to the grid. Can you produce a little extra here and there? Sure, that can sometimes be worked in. But for the most part, those three factors are what's going to prevent you from doing too large of a system or fitting a whole bunch of solar all over the place. So those are really the main limiting factors. Besides that, I'm going to add a fourth one where people like to think, well, where are the batteries going to go? That's got to be a limiting factor. The battery's got to live in my attic or something, or what's happening there. You don't need batteries. That's the beautiful part about it, right? So if you're thinking that a limitation is you don't want lithium-ion batteries in your house for solar installer, lead acid or car batteries, whatever, that's not a limitation because they're not necessarily required.
Okay. Well, the sun doesn't shine at night. How does that work? And here I'm leading that question. Here's the softball, right? Sun doesn't shine at night, Jason. How does it still power my house?
Yeah, what the heck? No, great question, and this right up that alley of myths and misconceptions. The beauty of having a grid connected system is it's relatively cheap to install. Install prices are anywhere between $2 to $3 a watt right now, which means a standard home installation is going to be anywhere between $15,000 and $20,000. That's down significantly from about 10,000 or about 10 years ago when installation rates were 60,000 plus, right? So that low barrier to entry, that low cost means that you're making use of the utility grid as a backup at night. So during the day, you're generating your energy, you're self-consuming as much of that energy as possible in the house. But then when your energy production exceeds what you're using in the house, that then gets exported to the grid during the day. Well, during the night, all you're doing is buying that energy back. Right. Mm-hmm. So through that exchange of exporting and importing throughout the day and throughout the year, that's where you've got that stability of having that backup of the grid, but you're still offsetting how much you're pulling in by sending more energy out. Right. Now, alternatively, we could be looking at, like I mentioned earlier, a hybrid or a battery system where we've got an automatic transfer switch that can effectively provide that backup energy through battery storage. And it'll feed your house for however long that battery storage can last. And then it'll start pulling energy from the grid again. So
that's the stuff like Powerwalls from Tesla and stuff like that. In other words, you can put a battery system or one of these units in your house, and you can power that all day and run everything you need to do that sort of stuff. And it'll store some, you'll still be connected to the grid. And then at night, if you want that secured to the backup, you can still use the power you pulled before you got to someplace else. But chances are you can get to a spot where you can take care of everything.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the products that we're actually certified for installing is the Generac Power Cell system as part of their Power Fleet deployment, which is, I'm just going to put it out there, it's 18 kilowatt hours, which is 5 kilowatt hours more storage than the Tesla Powerwall. So if you're looking at a little extra storage and something that's an integrated platform that works with your solar and the home backup, that's where you want to call us.
Okay. How does all that tie together, and what does that mean for my bill? I mean, in Alberta, other places in the world too, but in particular in North America, Alberta, power bills just jumped a lot. So how does that work out too? So you're kind of saying that maybe I might or I might not have a power bill, and I can create this stuff from the sky, and it's going to go back to the grid, and maybe I can put a battery in the basement or a Powerwall or something from Generac or wherever else it is. So how does that work out for me? Is this something that can work out comparably? Am I still going to have a power bill? Or can I just basically throw it out and I'm going to be paying for the solar system itself? And after there, no worries, no harm, no foul.
Sure. So in regards to a power bill, it really depends on what rate you're set up with, right? It depends on what energy retailer you're paying your energy bills to, where in the province or the country that you live, and what those transmission distribution fees are going to be, right? So if we take, say, the city of Edmonton, for example, simply because, well, we're here, it's a good example. To get an energy bill here in the city, there's a portion of your bill that's affected by how much energy you create, right? Or how much energy you use rather than, of course, how much energy you sell back. And then there's those pesky transmission distribution rate riders, there's taxes, fees, tariffs, whatever. A good amount of those are actually based upon the energy that you're using. So let's say theoretically, you just shut off your main breaker for exactly a month and you get, or whatever your billing period is, and you get your next bill in the mail. There's still going to be a fixed charge on your bill, It's anywhere from 20 to 30 bucks inside of regional or inside of a municipality. Anywhere in a rural location, you're still looking at maybe 100, 150 bucks, kind of a flat cost. That's never going to change, right?
Yeah.
So with a properly sized solar array, you're going to be seeing credits for that being built up during the summer. And when I say properly sized, we were talking about offset earlier. So how much of a solar array can we fit on your roof? What fits your budget? What fits your past energy usage? And so that energy bill during the summer, because you're generating so many credits, you might even see a credit on your bill. And that includes the gas and the admin and whatever your other gas energy portions are. If you've got a combined bill, you may very well see a credit on that in the middle of summer. Middle of winter, theoretically, if you've built up enough credits during the summer, you're going to burn through those credits as you go into winter, as you go in through fall and through the depths of winter. And then come January, we were actually just checking a couple of systems for routine maintenance today. There's systems that have been producing for the past 2 weeks now, and they're producing whatever energy they can in the 5-6 hours of sunlight that we're getting in January. So now they're already in the ramp up to not only offsetting what they're using in their house, but also exporting that excess energy to the grid.
So if I sit there and put solar up, and even though I'm connected to the grid, I get battery backup and stuff like that, can I get rid of my bill?
Unfortunately not. No, there are requirements in place that houses, especially in municipalities, must be connected to the grid system at any time. And I believe in some regional or some rural regional areas, you can have your power line disconnected. But the problem is then you're completely self-reliant. You don't have a backup. You will need a generator. It doesn't matter how many batteries you end up putting in. I will always recommend that a generator goes in as backup, to have that backup on a backup, because in the middle of December 21st at midnight or 6 in the morning, doesn't really matter. It's all dark all the time anyway. You're going to want to make sure that you have that backup energy for at least a couple weeks at a time. And if you've got a full-size house, a full-size property, and you want to offset that usage, that is a lot of batteries and a big generator. So to have that utility available and be paying that under $100 a month constant utility bill just for that security is a worthwhile investment.
Okay. So what do people got to do? How do they get involved? How long does it take? What do they got to, and I'm not just legacy, period. It's solar, right?
Yep.
A lot. Now, there are different parts of the world where this is normal. This is a fact of life. In our neighborhood, it's not so much. It's still kind of new. So there's people that don't know an awful lot. And even in areas where it is something that's common, that's easy to understand, people still don't understand quite what it means. So fill people in. What do they have to know? Sure.
So step one is what I recommend to anybody. Give us a call, shoot us an email, ask some questions. Yeah, I want to ask some questions about solar. As I mentioned earlier, one of the ulterior motives of Legacy is to provide education. Right? There are no stupid questions when it comes to solar. What happens? They don't work in the snow. What happens when it hails? What happens with this? What happens when there's next to gravel road? All these considerations. These are the kind of questions that I want to be answering. Legacy wants to be answering to be able to educate people on this. So yeah, like I said, step one, reach out. Step two, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to be doing site assessments. We want to learn your electrical infrastructure, how much energy you use, what your goals are. Why are you getting into renewable energy? If it's to make money, we're not installing ATMs on your roofs. There's not going to be a license to print money on your roof. We're looking at offsetting your electrical usage, right? So we kind of want to get to know you, why you're getting into renewable energy, and how we can best meet that goal, right? Custom tailored designs, custom budgets, whatever those end up looking like, all that's going to do is meet the purpose of why you want to be doing this. That's what we're in this for. So once we've done a site assessment, we've checked out everything, we get you a proposal, you say, yep, let's go ahead, we get some contracts in place. That's when we start doing the heavy lifting. We'll take care of the permitting, we take care of the material procurement, we take care of the whole interconnection agreement with whatever your wire services provider is, EPCOR, Fortis, ATCO, or whoever that is. And then from there, we pretty much automate the process so that in roughly about a month's time, once permitting and interconnection and everything's all taken care of and material is on site, we'll pretty much call you up and say, hey, we need to climb around on your roof for 3 to 4 days. And then once we're done climbing around your roof for 3 to 4 days and the system's installed, everything gets passed, permitted, get your rebates taken care of, and then you've got a fully operational system in an ideal timeline of about 2 months. give or take, from pulling the trigger on the contract to final installation. Now, lately, there's been some delays in material and stuff, so that kind of affects things. But for the most part, an ideal installation, 2 months, 3 on the high end, is kind of what you'd be looking at. So right now, February 11th, definitely the right time to start looking at this.
Mm-hmm. What's one of the coolest or one of the biggest projects that you've taken on?
Oh, that's a good question. One of the coolest projects that I've personally taken on, and this was with a past company, was a First Nations community just south of Edmonton, and we did their entire, probably did about 4 or 5 different sites across the Indigenous community, where we were doing ground mount systems. We did a couple of quite large systems on their community centers. I think they were 40, 50 kilowatt systems, give or take. So at least 250, 300 modules to each of those installs. Those ones are really cool. They're not necessarily because they were the biggest installs ever. I've done larger installs, but those ones were neat because they really meant something to me, right? They really kind of hit home. And being T myself, that opportunity to provide that, training opportunity where we employed local community members to help us do this installation. We indentured local community members as apprentice electricians to help them start a career path that they could really grow into. That's why it's one of my favorites. Is we helped to change a community on their terms, and we're really able to impact some lives with those projects.
How do you give back? What does it mean? I mean, paying the bills and, being able to buy a car, or buy groceries, or pay your rent or your mortgage or whatever it is always part of why people do this. What else is one of the reasons you do this? Why do you wake up in the morning?
Oh, that's so the big thing for me is enabling people to generate their own energy. I think that's super important, to have that ownership over what you're generating, what you're using, and to be able to call it your own, right? The second piece that really does it for me is we've actually been partnering up with a local nonprofit called the Sustainable Energy and Agriculture Association of Alberta, or SEA. And it's through that organization that we're really able to make some serious changes to the local society, local community, and groups like the Somali Cultural Associations, or the Big Brothers Big Sisters, organizations like that we want to be supporting with this nonprofit, where we're providing mentorship opportunities, we're providing day camp opportunities for youth in agriculture and sustainable energy and electricity. We're providing pre-apprenticeship training programs. We're providing seniors programs, and all sourced around sustainable energy and sustainable agriculture, in order to improve these communities, improve their lives, and again, give them that opportunity for growth and autonomy without having to effectively giving them a crutch that they need to continue to lean on us. We want them to be able to get away. We want them to form their own communities out of that.
So it is 6 months, a year, 2 years from now. What's going on? What's happening in Legacy's world? What's happening for Jason?
Oh man, 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, we're looking at later this year, with our partnership with EcoLeaf Energy. We've got an amazing growth trajectory going on right now. We're looking at hundreds upon hundreds of solar installations, residential solar installations, being taken care of this year. We've got sales teams in the hundreds, dare I say, approaching thousands, on depending on how we grow, on how we look. We're looking at international expansion, both in the United States, South America, and Pan-Pacific nations. We're looking at partnering and developing joint ventures with Indigenous organizations, with equipment manufacturers. We're looking at, and these are, it's kind of funny because Mitch being one of my business partners in Legacy, and of course Scott as well. It's funny how they often turn to me as the conservative outlook, if you will, where I know they're very much shooting for stars. I'm very much behind these conservative estimates that I've just provided, and I think those are kind of the low end of where we're going to be in the next 2 years. So that's where we see us going. I see a team, a full design and implementation team. I see Legacy expanding to housing an office with a number of staff, both regionally and locally. and a full contractor onboarding platform with, I'd have to say, close to 25 to 30, maybe even 40 certified contractors on board across Canada, with legacy offices in Alberta, Ontario, and maybe even Saskatchewan. So that's where I see us sitting.
Mm-hmm. There's a shift coming right now, and there's going to be a new energy wave. There's going to be a brand new energy boom. And that goes to my comment at the beginning where I said it's not going to come from the ground. And that's more towards oil and gas. Oil and gas is still not going anywhere yet, but there are mandates and there's transitions when it comes to EV vehicles and stuff like that. So if we go down the path of how many EV vehicles we're going to take in and stuff like that, conversations for us, but maybe news to the viewing audience here. I'd like you to walk that through a little bit, because our grid system is not built to handle that yet, which means you've got to start thinking of something else right now. You want a Tesla because it's a status symbol, because it's a cool vehicle, and you think, man, I'll put gas, I'll put oil, right? I have to get the brakes done on it anymore. Certainly don't have to have transmission service done on this thing. I need a computer technician to be able to maintain my vehicle, if you will, right? But that means that there's going to be a whole new set of challenges. So what does that look like for people? What do people have to be thinking about now? Because in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, a lot of that's going to start to change. And we're seeing those ripples happening now. So what does that mean for people?
Great question. So let's say you want to be that guy that gets Tesla, and your buddies down the street. You got a couple of neighbors that have them. You got a couple of neighbors this way that have them. Well, you get the Tesla and you want a level charging station installed in your house. Well, if you put in that application for a permit, EPCOR may very well come back and say, you know what, we have to actually upgrade that transformer in the area because its load is now at max capacity based on your neighbors having electric vehicles. So if you want this, well, who pays? Is it that last person on the street? Is it the whole community now gets some sort of tariff or levy or whatever the case to pay for that upgrade? These are the kinds of questions that are being asked by wire services providers to determine how we're going to enable that. Now, one of the things that we've been doing, especially with our Generac products, is installing smart panels, smart load management systems, where combined with a solar array, you could be effectively limiting how much energy you're using, even with an electric vehicle, so that you're no longer overloading that transformer. And that's the kind of progress that we're going to want to see, is these more of these smart energy management. We've been taking it for granted that this 100 amp service panel in our basement, or 200 amp service panel in our basement, just sits there and constantly draws energy, right? We don't really control each circuit. We don't really monitor how much each circuit is using out of that panel. We barely monitor exactly what goes into the panel, right? So I think part of this movement is people becoming much more energy conscious. We're providing, through Kite Electric, we're providing products like the E-Gauge energy monitors, or the Power Cell energy monitors, and those things are allowing people to have much more visibility into what the panels are doing. Leviton Smart Panels includes networking, where you can see what each circuit is doing, and if you want, remotely control those and shut off entire circuits. So pair that with energy monitoring, and all of a sudden your electrical panel is taking on a life of its own, and it's able to really control how much energy you're using, and not only using, but bringing in from a solar array or an alternative backup source. So that's where I think we're going to start seeing some really big innovations, and really big uptick in installations for these smart devices, where, sure, you can go down there every 30 minutes and shut off a circuit to save some energy, but let's automate it. Tech's pretty cool.
That adds a whole new classification to household warfare when it comes to things like the thermostat and the power switches, right?
Totally. Yeah, the entire floor of the house goes dark just because someone's feeling spiteful.
So we can maybe help people avoid that too, right? Yeah, we don't do marital relations, but we can certainly suggest a counselor if people need to while we're considering it, right? All right. So what do people need to do next? What should they watch for? Because you started to mention the technology that goes into it too. So it's not just enough to put panels on a roof. What do people have to think about when they're looking at their house? They're going to get the shock value of the current bill, realize there's some other things they can do. So what are the tips, tricks, and steps before they get to solar? What's the stuff that people need to do right now? What have to be smart about? And then what should become an inevitability? How do they get involved with that too?
Sure. So, I mean, solar is only one method of offsetting carbon footprint, we'll say, right? Solar is not an efficiency model. Solar is not a way of increasing your energy efficiency. You can be as inefficient as possible. You have 10 cappuccino machines, 5 hot tubs out back, and 3 electric vehicles. You're not really that energy efficient if you just add solar, right? So energy efficiency comes down to reducing your electrical loads, putting in LEDs, putting in timers, dimmers, controllers around your house, smart lighting systems, um, some things along the lines of watt stoppers that can actually measure electrical usage of devices around your home. And that's just the electrical side of energy efficiency. There's other things you can do, like replacing your windows or installing insulation or upgrading the insulation in your attic and putting in higher efficiency furnaces. And these are all things that you can do before committing to a solar installation that you'll actually see payback over time in the fact that you're going to use less electricity. That is energy efficiency to it at its core. When you've decreased your energy efficiency, if we go back to earlier, you're now decreasing the size of a solar array that you need to offset that usage. So you're actually bringing down the cost of your system by investing in those energy efficiency measures, right? Now, how do you measure that energy efficiency? Well, conveniently, the government introduced their Greener Homes Energy Grant, where you can get up to $5,600. That's $5,000 for an improvement and $600 for a EnerGuide home energy audit. And so with that home energy audit, you will be told exactly where your inefficiencies are, what improvements can be made, and one of those improvements will, of course, be a solar energy system where you can see the benefits from that immediately. Benefits from installation upgrades and LED upgrades, you'll eventually see those savings over time as you're using less energy, especially seasonally, right? The beauty of a solar installation upgrade is that you're effectively seeing that from day one. The second that system is turned on, you're seeing that benefit and you'll see that reflected in that month's energy bill.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you directly. I got a house that has got one of those weird 4-sided ones, and part of it faces south, and I got a garage where it runs east-west, which means I got one entire run of that roof that clearly just points south all the time. Is that going to be enough?
It's tough to say.
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's fine. It's tough to say without knowing energy usage. I get that question quite often, right? How much would solar cost for a 950 square foot bungalow? How many hot tubs do you have? Do you have any electric vehicles? Do you have an induction stove? Do you have gas stove? What is your energy usage and how much am I going to offset? Because then once I determine what your usage is and how much I need to get 100% offset, then we go to that second limiting factor and say, here's how much I can stuff on your roof. There's different, I mean, anywhere you want to put solar, there's a way to put solar. There's a way to rack it, there's a way to install it, and there's a way to electrically wire it. There's all sorts of options. So short answer, yes. Long answer, how much do you want to pay is really what it comes down to. If you want 100% offset and I can fit that on your house and your garage, now does it fit that third limiting factor? Does it fit your budget? Right? So that's where it's a bit of a longer answer. So I want to say, yes, heck yeah, let's take a look at it. But I can't really commit to an answer until we've taken a study of the property and your energy usage.
So what would be the steps then? And I asked that question on purpose. What are the steps for people? Now they're going to be mindful. They're thinking, okay, I kind of want to do this. And maybe I got to be a little more mindful of what's going on. And I got some light bulbs I haven't replaced with LED yet, stuff like that. Yep. So we got some things you're going to take care of at home. What are their next steps? What are they going to look at doing? How does that happen? You're given a sense of timeline. So what do people got to do to transact on this to, make life better?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've taken all the energy efficiency steps. You've contacted Greener Homes, the Greener Homes Grant. You kind of got your energy audit all lined up. You're like, okay, we need to make this happen. The best thing that you can do is, first of all, contact Legacy Renewables and say, here's my energy usage. Here's my address and location I want this checked out at. And here's all my contact information. That's it. That's all that needs to be done. Because at that point, we'll be able to answer that first hurdle. What's your energy usage? We'll be able to answer how much to put on your house using our world-class satellite design software. And you'll get options presented to you in person or virtually. We've got a whole online proposal platform. And we'll be able to answer those two first questions. And then you'll answer the last one, does this fit within my budget? Because at that point, we can scale and tailor and change. But to initialize the process, That's really all we need. How much energy have you used? Where are you at? How do we get a hold of you? Let's start the conversation. At that point, we can kind of custom tailor things. There's a couple changes here and there, but it's no more difficult than that.
Outstanding. Outstanding. What's next for you? You got lots going on. What's next for you, and what makes Jason such a badass?
What's next for me, man? That is a big question. Beyond the development in Legacy that we've been talking about, beyond the development in Kite Electric, I'm proud to announce that Kite Electric, we're moving towards a franchise model. We're going to be putting together some franchise packages and marketing those out throughout Canada. And I've got my continued work with the nonprofit organization SIA, and we've got some continued training opportunities and training and development opportunities for the staff at Legacy, as well as any certified contractors onboardings that come on. Besides that, I mean, super personally, let's go with an electric truck, because that's going to be important down the road. Honestly, getting to the point where I have the freedom and ability and resources to educate as many people as possible and remove as many barriers to entry to as many people as possible. Simply because that's what really fulfills what I've got going on. That's my personal mission, is to get alternative energy and renewable energy accessible to as many people around the world as possible. And if Legacy is the vehicle that I can use to make that happen, I will continue pouring myself into Legacy and into Kite Electric and whatever I can into EcoLeaf and SIA to continue pushing that message. Right? That's, I think, going to be the next thing, because man, I feel like this is just getting started. The what next? There's so much opportunity there.
All right, Jay, how do people reach out to you? How do they get a hold of you?
Perfect. We got the Legacy websites. We got legacyrenewables.energy. First place to start. Great content there. Thank you very much, Scott. I really got that all put together. It looks awesome. Jason at legacyrenewables.energy. Couldn't be easier. That's a direct contact to me. We've got our phone number, everything listed up on the website. You can go ahead and reach out. Shoot me some questions. Hey, man, love the talk. Got some questions about what you talked about. Let's talk about more myths and misconceptions. I love having these kinds of conversations because it's feeding into that need to provide that education, to provide clarification, to set the record straight when, you know, we're inundated by so much misinformation and misdirection and so on. I want to be able to provide that centralized resource where I may not know the answer or the exact answer at that given time, but I will be researching that. I'll make sure that it's found and you have a factual answer responded to you. So that's the best way to get a hold of me, Jason at legacyrenewables.energy, or on, of course, the legacyrenewables.energy site. You can also check me out at kiteelectric.ca. We've got our contact us forms there as well. So reach out there, Jason at kiteelectric.ca.
My brother, it is always a pleasure to be in your company as well. This is Jason Courtepatte, Legacy Renewables Energy, Kite Electric, SIA, all the other great stuff that's going on. Thank you so much for coming and doing this, of course, and giving us a shot at giving you a shot to talk to the entire world that's out there. Hey, audience. Hey, Cyndicate family. Hey, anybody that sees this or everybody that sees this in the future, get at your boy, Jason. It's what's happening in energy right now. It's going to become the next energy boom. We're going to go the stuff that falls out of the sky, whether it is rain, whether it is sunshine, etc., whether it's the wind that's moving as well. We are starting to move in that direction right now. And you want to be at the front end because it's going to be a benefit for you. It can make a difference in your life. Jay, thank you so much for coming with us. And to everybody that's out there, Cyndicate family and everybody else, this is brought to you free of charge. It helps to build your education. It helps to change your mindset. It gives you tools, resources, ideas, and suggestions that can make your world, your business, and you better because of it. Check out our previous 3 seasons. Check out the rest of season 4 as it comes out here in the early and mid part of 2022. And as always, Syndicate Talks started because we wanted to give resources for free away to people to make them better at their job, being a business owner, and just being you. Thank you for joining us today on a Syndicate Talks. I am Mitch Kamich. I am a broker of certainty today, and I will see you on our next episode of season 4 in Syndicate Talks.